Hey everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George-affleck.
And it's time for...
Boarding update for me is Flight Freedom.
UnSpun.
Are we going to travel, George-affleck?
I think so. We'll get into this, but yeah, it looks like I booked a flight yesterday. And I was talking to through WestJet to California for October. And I was talking, the Air Canada and WestJet are busier bookings right now than they have been since 2019, but actually it's busier than it was in 2019, which was a record year. So they're seeing massive bookings right now, massive.
Okay,
People
so we'll get
confident.
back. We're going to get back to Air Canada in a hot minute because my head's going to explode on that one. But let's start with something.
There's lots to talk about.
Can we start with the good news, please? The vaccine uptake. Both of us had our youngsters, if you will, our tweens, our teens vaccinated on the same day, no less.
That's right. And my daughter just got done just literally 5 minutes ago. Like she this morning at 10:30, she went down there. So that's all three of my kids done and dusted.
I love that. And I have to say that most of my friends have either received their texts or have even booked their second dose. And that's great news. I mean, the influx of vaccine that we're getting into the province right now, Keith Baldry was on CKNW with me yesterday, and the numbers that he was tossing around are just like astounding. And it seems like, you know, we're getting the text messages to book second doses over a weekend because the influx of vaccine arriving on a Monday is significant. And now, as we're learning, NACI, the National Advisory Committee of Immunization, saying that the mix and match is available for those with AstraZeneca. And I wanted to talk to you about this, George, and I hadn't mentioned to you before, but I had Dr. Conway on, the infectious diseases head.
Not George Conway.
No.
Because that would be interesting.
That would be.
That's a whole other story.
Did I say George? I didn't say George. No, Dr. Conway. No. But Brian is his name, Dr. Brian Conway. Anyways, we were taking calls on the radio the other day about AstraZeneca, about anything really. And a caller called in and said, you know, he said, if you tolerated, and I've got air quotes for those listening and not seeing, tolerated the AstraZeneca shot, you should do everything you can to follow up with AstraZeneca for your second dose. The risks are very low. The risk of VIT reduced to like 1 in a million because you had it the first time and you didn't have a reaction. So the caller was asking, you know, actually it was an email that I got. I was asking that, you know, she felt like she'd been hit by a bus. She had fever and chills. She was sick for a few days. Took her about a week to feel normal again. Is that tolerating it well? And he said, you know, I don't want to feed into any conspiracies or anything, but, you know, perhaps you're a good candidate to have an mRNA, have a Pfizer or Moderna as your alternative if it knocked you down that hard. And I thought, okay, I like the fact that we're following the science to the degree that the question is answered that honestly. If you did have a significant, more than you had a bit of a hangover, right?
Hangover, yeah. I had a hangover as well as a hangover. Because I had a few celebration drinks after the vaccine. And I thought the next morning, I feel a bit hungover. That's unusual. And then I went to the gym and then I felt even worse. And then by noon, I was out. I was gone for the afternoon, just gone. So it was like the flu.
And the next day?
Oh, 100%. In fact, one of my staff got her Moderna on Friday or Sunday. And she came to work and she felt fine. And then suddenly at noon, around the same schedule as I had with AstraZeneca, she just said, I got to go home. I feel like I got to go.
Yeah.
And then the next morning she was 100%. She felt great. You know, so, you know, Moderna has its impact too. Pfizer seems to be the least one of the ones, but yeah.
But Jesse Miller and I had our second doses of Pfizer because both of us are essential care for our respective parents. And he and I had a reason to do a Zoom call. He had me appearing for one of his classes at UVic. And he and I both were, oh my God, we both had it yesterday. And I said, I have no reaction whatsoever. And he's like, I just dragged myself out of bed to do this. Like, I feel awful. And I was really surprised by that, you know, how differently we tolerated it. And I said, you know what? They said maybe it's people who have had COVID before that tolerate it better than others. And he goes, no, I actually had it. So there's no real,
that theory.
Right? There's no rhyme or reason there, but it's fascinating as to, you know, how this all plays out and the mixing and matching and, you know, going into a clinic to get a second dose and being told we're serving up Pfizer today and you going, yeah, I don't think so. Don't do that. Don't do that. Just get your damn second
They
dose.
also, and there was a story today that talks about the booster shots and whether or not you do them, or maybe they don't need them, and maybe just an mRNA. It's like, oh my God, it's like literally we're learning on the fly here about these things. But
yeah,
at least the numbers are great. As far as BC, I mean, we're heading in the right direction. We're seeing under 200 now in BC, and we're at what, 80, almost 80% potentially by when? Like soon.
80% vaccinated with a single dose, which is huge. That's huge. I'm so proud of British Columbia.
Canada is surpassing, and Canada in general is also surpassing, coming now first for first dose.
And so we didn't need free beer or nothing. Did you hear that in the United States?
Yes.
It's like free NASCAR, free baseball, free
lottery
beer,
tickets.
Lottery tickets, and still the plummeting second dose. I'm worried about it. Anyway,
why wouldn't you go get your second dose? It's so bizarre to me.
So bizarre.
I can't wait. Just get it in me.
I hope that in BC that all vaccines eventually are available at pharmacies. So it was as easy as it was for you to be like,
yeah, it was like it does for flu shot. And, but I must say the process for kids they all went to the convention center as you did with your.
I didn't. Brady. We didn't go to the convention center. No, we went BCC. We went.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the convention center may be similar, but it was like quite a system. And
the P&E was running ours. Everybody had their P&E name tag on. They were lovely. Okay, George, were you with your boy when he got it, or was Amanda?
I couldn't go in because only one parent can go in, so I was there for the.
How was Amanda? Did she get emotional?
She did, of course. She didn't. She cried. She cried when the first. Well, she's not here, so she can't stop me. But yeah, I think she was definitely. She cried when she had her vaccine.
Me too.
And then when he got his, she was also emotional. Yeah.
So I'm standing in front of my son. He's super brave. He's wearing his this is our Shot CA shirt because branding. And but he was sitting there, and the doctor who was administering it was wearing her scrubs, and she was very kind and trying to allow my 6 foot tall 13-year-old to do his own thing. And he was super brave, and she's like, do you want me to just get to it? And he goes, yes, please. And she did it, and I'm watching, and needles do not bother me at all. My mom, lab technician, I've had more blood tests than I care to ever admit. I watched him get that Pfizer shot like it actually happened. You're not allowed to take pictures with the kids, right? Mm-hmm. So watch that happen. And I ugly cried. Like I couldn't control it. Brady,
I'm sure Brady's like, whoa, Mom, come on.
I might as well have started a flash mob of dance in front of him. He was horrified. I couldn't help it. I know, I'm sorry,
my parents
man.
embarrassed me all the time just by existing when I was at his age. So
that was me.
Boys are pretty easily embarrassed by their parents.
Can we talk about municipal politics embarrassment?
I got a motion. You got a motion. He's got a motion. We got a motion. We got the same motion. Let's do motion. Motion. It's like, oh my God. Not only is there motion hell at City Hall, now they're submitting the exact same motions because they don't talk to each other. It's like, oh, jeez.
Aren't you supposed to talk together? Isn't that what council is about?
Well, I'm a bit confused because usually the city clerk will say, so just to give background, there's two motions on the floor in next week's council meeting in Vancouver to get rid of leaf blowers, motorized leaf blowers. So, the bane of many people's existence along, I know your power washing friendly neighbor there. And that's actually probably
7
electric.
days.
So.
No, it wasn't. Yeah. It was the gas one.
Was it?
It was the gas one. Okay. It was the full speed.
What is he power washing? That's what
you know what? He's very diligent. He's a lovely, lovely person. He just made all of us really
the whole neighborhood or what?
Every last pebble. It was 7 days, an entire long weekend, and then the entire following weekend, and then one of us went over and said, "Enough now."
No, we're gonna get you.
We're trying to all be friendly neighbors. We're all stressed. I mean, I get it.
Yes,
but come on, I want our city councilors to at least be on the same page on something as simple as this.
Yeah, so the two councilors put a motion forward to get rid of leaf blowers and of these motorized leaf blowers. And I'm like, they're almost exact same motion. It's Adrian Carr and I think Sarah Kirby-Young, right? And I'm like, how, because I worked with Adrian and we would often talk about our motions and we'd sit down and I'd say, hey, I got this motion, what do you think? And any suggestions? And,
right.
and I knew there was always Vision, when I was there, they would steal some of my ideas. There was always that concern, but until I'd submit them, the process for submitting was different than it is now. But because they have all these motions, but I don't understand how they could both be actually on the agenda. Given that they're so similar, it really is the epitome of inefficiency, because they have to now deal with them. Either they have to go through a process in council to get rid of one of them. Which one got first? How are they going to prove it? It's like, oh my God, it's just juvenile. As opposed to the talking to each other and one deciding one should be the seconder, and you need a seconder for all motions.
It makes all kinds of sense to align like that. I mean,
this is not. I noticed the Green Party put out a big press release, so Adrian got all the PR from it, which is classic move. You put a press release, and I heard she did a few interviews on various media about this leaf blower thing. And one thing I'm surprised, I'm like, why didn't Vision ever bring this one in? I'm thinking way back, and why didn't Adrian do it? She's been there for 10 years. How did it suddenly become an issue to her now? It's sort of weird. I mean, this thing's gas. These are gas powered. She hates gas powered things. So much so she doesn't even understand how the economy works. But anyways, I won't get into that.
I was going to say, there's a shot across the bow if I've heard one. Well,
most Green Party thinks money grows on trees, literally, like floats and like the actual.
Oh, I'd like to talk about trees eventually on this podcast as well.
Yeah. Well,
but can we go from? Okay, let's go from that municipal piece. And we'll get broader. So some people say, you guys are so Vancouver.
Our point is, you get it together. You guys, come on.
Work together.
Stop with all the nonsense motions. And then also work together. They're a bunch of independents now, really. They're all kind of doing their own thing. So at least save us all time in the world out here and staff's time, and get some stuff done and talk to each other behind the scenes. You're living little silos in your little offices behind the chamber, or wherever they're hiding these days, in their homes on the Sunshine Coast, wherever they're actually working. Their cabins, because I think several of the councillors have cabins. Get it together and have
make
a call
couple
with your
calls. Yeah, make a couple calls.
What are you working on? Hey, I'm working on this idea. It's just, anyways.
Can we get the park board to do the same thing?
Well, yeah, that's even worse. So I think that the park board GM is going to talk about it today. I haven't heard what was going on, but apparently they're building a park and none of the commissioners knew about it. Or there's like this pop-up park at English Bay, or it's sort of in a parking lot. If you go along Beach Avenue, it's sort of there's a big parking lot with and half the lot is already a skate park, sort of for rollerblading and hockey. Yeah. And now they've taken another half of the parking lot and I was there last night. They were painting it green and all these different colors, and it's a pop-up park. And apparently we heard from Tricia Barker that she didn't even know this was happening. I'm thinking, well, how could you put all this money into something like this and they don't know about it? And she went to the media on this, something, and that's also unusual. Generally, if you see something, because it's kind of embarrassing that you don't, if you're the elected person and you're supposed to be overseeing, no offense, Tricia, but generally, I would probably go, I don't know what this is. I'm going to go find out what this is before I.
But you'd think that she would have had a vote on it.
What the hell's going on here? Well,
maybe,
not necessarily. If it's
no,
who knows? I mean, I don't know. It could be. Is it a film set? I don't know. What is it? We don't know. It's not. We don't know. That's the thing. So she went straight to the media, which is fine, but it's also kind of like weird.
I had her booked on the show already, and it was the news break prior that there was a clip of Tricia, who was on hold, to talk to me about the signage issue that she has, that she's putting a motion forward, because she's been taking pictures of all kinds of signs all over Vancouver parks that are bleached out. You can't read them. They're too high. They're leaning over. They're busted. There's no maintenance. I mean, we're so busy adding pylons, unnecessary pylons to the roadway at Stanley Park, that we can't fix the things that people actually need in parks, like the signage that explains where to go and how to use the park. And she made a good point about the old school signs on a post. Those don't work as well as the signs that are painted on and they're less expensive and less intrusive. Because I feel, as a Canadian, after traveling to Europe a couple of years ago, I went to Spain and came back with my then 8-year-old son. And I said, Brady, what do you think is different? What do you notice that's different? And he goes, why are there yellow lines on the escalators? Like in Europe, there are no yellow lines. They know that that's the edge. Oh my God.
See, that's, I was just going to say, the world is divided into two people who love signs and people who just like hate signs. There are people, I don't understand this obsession with signage. Nobody reads them anyways.
Right. Take them down.
The only time I need to,
Put them on the
parking,
ground.
and usually I'm going, I don't understand what this parking sign means, so I'll just park
Agreed.
because I don't know, or I won't park here. But generally, there's like this mentality. I live in a building in downtown, and we actually struck. I'm on the Strata Council because I'm going, well, who put all these signs up? Who approved that? Like, what is this? There's like 4 signs on our door that opens up. I'm like, nobody's going to read these. There's like one. And I'm, in marketing. I'm like, if you're trying to communicate something, you don't put it in 16 different styles and fonts, colors. And nobody's going to read this. Nobody. And so nobody reads signs. So, but there are people who just love signs. I remember this time when I worked at Expo 86, and every day we'd have these debriefs, and oh, there we go, Expo 86 hat with the Expo 86, and I worked at the BC Pavilion, very big pavilion. Yes. I was a host, and you had, a lot of your job was mainly the bathrooms are that way. The bathrooms are that way over there. This lineup will be 14 hours long if you stay in it. So don't bother. Just go to the Australian Pavilion or go to
the Unicorn, drink beer.
Go to the Unicorn, have a beer. Yeah. Anyways, but I remember the last week, and because at these debriefs every day of staff, there would be staff, oh, can we maybe put a sign that we might help people understand that this and that? And, every time they'd say, no. Literally the last week of Expo, still, there were staff going, I think we just need some more signage on this area. I'm like, oh my God, there's 1 week left of Expo. Stop with the signage obsession. It's not going to work. Your job is to guide people to the bathroom.
You're the sign.
That way.
You're the sign. You are the sign.
I'm sorry to belittle what you do, but your job is to point in directions.
Well, the new path that goes by the tennis courts at Kitts Beach to help, which I believe like that there was a problem with where the seaside bike path, whatever, we would ride our bikes through that parking lot, and it was precarious. So this is the one time I'm like, I agree. That's a good call. As long as the disabled parking continues, I'm there. 100%. But you know what, George? I was there, and the number of signs is ridiculous. All we need is
I remember getting complaints about that when I was on council. And here's a signage thing that as part, I don't want her motion details, but here's one that I know they're refusing to do. Is there's in Yaletown or along the water there where they've put that new bike lane along beach.
Yep.
It's a city permanent bike lane. It's a permanent bike lane. But the park board is in denial about this. And so, they still have the bike lane on the water, right? That is still closed for bikes. But they are in the belief that maybe that bike lane will come back. And there's no need for that part. If you know that area, you can sort of like where the pool is, and you can ride
the
up.
Aquatic Center,
You share the path with bikes. And there's there's like little restaurants and stuff. It doesn't make any sense to have a bike lane there. But the park board refuses to get rid of the sign on the ground that says bikes allowed. Like you have the signs on the ground with the pedestrian person and then the bike person. Yeah. And park board is so in denial about, this and the fact that city's done this, or there's so much confusion, and it's like they don't want to get rid of. They won't get rid of this. So then bicyclists are confused. So they ride their bike down there, and there's pedestrians like, hey, there's no bikes allowed here. There's a bike sign right there. No bikes allowed here. You're like, oh my God.
It's crazy. It's almost as crazy as the let's fight about the 12-story versus 5-story, whatever, which we were speaking about last week, right? And now also a park thing. And I asked Trisha Barker about this when I was talking to her, and she was unaware of it to this point. But I was reading in the Vancouver Sun that there is a proposal for a new park at 5th and Fur. So imagine West 4th Avenue, sort of just one block west of Granville, right? The off-ramp of the Granville Street Bridge goes down Fur, where the Earl's is on the corner. I used to work at that Earl's. It was Cafe Fish back in the day. But so down where Boku Bakery is, sort of underneath that off-ramp of the Granville Street Bridge.
There's kind of a mixture playground in there already. They put in temporary sort of playground.
Right, because there's the Boku Bakery is the one holdout in the land assembly to then turn it into a $41 million park. So that within that is the purchase price of that piece of property, I have to assume, because a park, how can a park cost $41 million? Come on. But I was thinking that's where the park's going to go. And we're going to put the tower over where the people are freaking out in the neighborhood. Why not put the park 5 blocks over? Because that's really how far away Fur and Arbutus
you don't
are.
Want to
it's
put a park by a SkyTrain. That would be by the SkyTrain station. So
but there's going to be a SkyTrain station at the top of Fur too. Granville, 1 block over.
Oh, I suppose. Yeah, it's that for those people who know Vancouver. That's kind of Fur is right in the middle between 2 SkyTrain stations. So we're not 2.
1 block
Granville.
Over. Granville, Fur.
Yeah, the next one would be Burrard. It would be Arbutus, right? So Arbutus is the next station after Granville, but. I don't know.
There's not going to be a station at Burrard?
There are bad places to. No.
Oh. Weird.
There are weird parks. I think the key to parks, if you go in Yaletown, again, I'm talking about Yaletown here a lot, but
Let's do it.
there's a park right now. If you and actually go to these parks where they're open, like there's one right by my office here, beautiful view of the city, packed. COVID gives you a good indication, I think, of the kinds of parks that really, really work well.
Yeah.
Park over here, beautiful view of the city. It's a field. People just picnicking like crazy down in but where I live in Yaletown, all the parks with waterfront or that are open,
A breeze,
airy, full. But there's a park that's a funny little park that's and it's a little pocket park, and it's sort of on a little side street up from beach, right on beach actually, but it's like a weird little surrounded by towers, and it's literally a posters. And there's this weird long concrete table on it. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And you think, oh man, that it'd be cool. You gotta have a giant party on that, and have dinner. But it's a little too high to actually sit at, or a little too low to stand at. It's art. Anyways, nobody ever uses this park. Ever. Nobody's in this park. This park cost the city millions and millions and millions of dollars. They bought it. It was part of the development of the area, but it's like not used. And it's literally worth today's dollars, probably $100 million of real estate. And it's a park that's just not used. It makes no sense. It's got no light. And you sort of think, okay, I think we understand what kind of parks. So the question more for you maybe is, I know where is this park? What's the light? How close is it to the water? Could it be closer to the water? I don't know about further away. What's going to be around it? That's going to be surrounded by towers eventually.
It's where 4th Avenue becomes 6th Avenue, right? Like it's that dip in the road. It's a very busy hub between Burrard Street and Granville Island, the entrance to Granville Island. It is high traffic, high volume, high transit, high foot traffic. And for me, would that be a park destination for me? Probably not. Do people that live in the area closer to that spot need it? Maybe that's the thing. Maybe there isn't enough.
30,000 more people there eventually.
Yeah. No, I'm down with more green space, man. When I hear people saying we shouldn't have parks because we need more housing, it's like, whoa. We need both. We need both.
Community amenity contribution, which is a big deal. And then Vancouver kind of invented this concept, was meant to be a gift from the developers in order for you to live in a more dense environment. So whatever those gifts might be, it didn't mean, and I always argued this, because they switched its meaning under vision to provide more housing. Housing became part of an amenity contribution. No. The amenity was meant to provide parks or community centers or things that you need when you live in a densified neighborhood, so that you don't hate your life.
Yeah. Because not everybody has a yard. Right?
Exactly.
Not everybody has a patio.
We've been talking about for a year and a half.
Yeah.
And the whole drinking in parks is like, because people don't have patios. A lot of people, they don't have a place. They don't have it. They don't have it.
The people sitting around their pool. The people sitting around their pool going, not in my backyard. You're like,
yes.
Can you give me another shot of your feet in front of your pool that's in your yard? No, it makes me crazy.
Even what I have, which is a slightly open space, and it's a communal area that our door opens up into our common area in our back area. So we have space. The kids can run around. That's very unusual downtown. I look up at the towers that are all around me, and they are sharing the one we live in. They share this space with us. And so that's great, but not everybody has that. And you kind of want to, if you're going to leave your apartment in a tower, you want to go find something that's, might as well go to the water and sit on the grass. And
we live in Vancouver.
Anyways, this is why the city is more broken, because of this anger.
And the 22 zones, please. I don't know. I'm not even going to give it enough oxygen to say drinking in parks is dangerous and it's going to bring the worst out in people unless they sit in the places that we've determined are safe. What the hell?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And nobody knows where they are.
Nobody cares.
I love my bottle of wine that we had last night at English Bay. And nice. I said to Amanda, please make sure if any police or anybody comes and they want to give me a ticket, I want the whole thing filmed.
Video it. Okay, so we've only got just a few minutes left. And I know that some people might be like, why are you not talking about the biggest story in the country, maybe even the world, when it comes to reflecting on Canadian citizens and the history of the damage done by the settler supremacy, is what Dr. Henry called it on Monday, and the need for us to become humble learners, us being the non-Indigenous peoples in this country. I write about it in the Orca.ca in the middle this week, and I've never had anything sort of flood out of me. I don't think since the column that I wrote right around New Year's, where I was talking about how I'm not okay. Every now and then you'll write something that you don't even think about. You just put it down on paper and you just let it go. I was so viscerally angry and so shameful and I didn't know what to do about it. So I wrote about it. So go look at my column. You and I have not really had a lot of time to speak on this subject. There's so much to talk about. But what we did exchange earlier today, I loved your response.
Well, I think that it's what's important to remember, and I think the premier's dealing with this with Fairy Creek, which is, he's made it very clear that it's the rights of the First Nations to decide what they want to do with their land. In this case, at Fairy Creek, with logging, the nation there has said they want logging, and they said this is our decision, and so he's kind of putting his eggs in that sort of argument, like, hey, this is their land, like. He's also dealing with the whole, he's putting a thing together in 2023 and we'll deal with logging and all that stuff down the road.
Once we cut down some big trees first.
Yeah. But the whole residential school, horrible, horrible stuff. We all know it's horrible. We've always known we've been hearing the story for, forever.
This is not
and then we still have this problem where there's like, dirty water. They can't get clean water across this country. How hard could this be, given how much money we've spent over the last couple of years, years since COVID, that you can't get fresh water to these remote areas, whether they even, and sometimes it's not even, it's like, why? We live in an industrialized,
there's no excuse.
Country.
There's really literally no excuse.
The Prime Minister said he was going to do it, and he hasn't done it. The previous Prime Minister, the previous one, that's just an example, and this is today. We should be embarrassed about this today.
The shame's on us.
And then, shame's on us. So that's just one issue. And then you look at the challenge the Premier has on the Fairy Creek, and you have to also decide that, every Indigenous group, every nation, they have their own desires and their own strategies, their own personalities. Each one, they can't be lumped together. The whole residential school system was the premise was like basically, we'll go to system, that'll fix it all. That's not how it works, and that doesn't, it's like saying that Langley is the same as Vancouver and as a municipality. It's not. Every neighborhood has their own needs and desires, and certainly every nation in the First Nations, they have different styles and different leaderships and different whatever. And you have to. It's complicated. Sorry, but basically things like water and the fact that we haven't acknowledged properly what happened within the residential school system, which was,
and that's for me the piece that needs to be the final words here, because it's not going to be the last time we use this platform to shine light on it, because I'm going to be on top of this in a way. My love for Gord Downey. Gord was ahead of his time when he said, we're not the Canada we think we are. And it is about drinking water. It is about Channy Wenjack. It is about the tragedy that First Nations and Indigenous peoples have been saying for decades. It's all new to us because of this unmarked burial underneath the residential school in Kamloops. This could be just the tip of the iceberg. I'm using my voice. I'm calling on our politicians. I don't care what party you're in. I don't care how much it costs. I don't care what the legalities are. It is time to identify every single solitary last one of these children. It is an absolute shame on us as citizens, because we can't change what happened, but we can change what happens. And I'm sorry, but we get an update almost yearly on whether anybody's seen Michael Dunahee. 215 bodies in Kamloops. Nobody's talking about where these children are or who they are. People have been screaming to find out even who they are. And right now in Ottawa, it's in my column, but right now in Ottawa, on one hand, the Prime Minister is saying, we're absolutely going to do everything we can. And on the other side, there is litigation against victims of residential schools who are trying to find out the names of the people and what happened to the children that we are now finding in these unmarked graves. It's just overwhelming. And I have to stop there because I'll keep ranting. But please read my column, theorca.ca. Go, George.
Yeah. Just want to pivot because we brought it up at the beginning about Air Canada and talk about fat cats.
Right.
Talk about out of touch. The Air Canada executives getting bonuses during when they're getting negotiation to get $10 billion from the federal government. And, I think that, we're going to talk more about that. I think we can talk about down the road. We'll see what happens. But
you're right, though. And that is dovetailed, though, dude, because it's $10 billion that was paid out in bonuses when there was a bailout of $6 million? Our taxpayer dollars bailed out Air Canada to the tune of $6 billion. And they paid executives who are already making fat cat freaking salaries bonuses. We can't take care of the victims of residential schools.
Yes, that is a problem, and I think there needs to be priorities for sure. And on that note, I guess I think that I was the importance of how government spends its money. There is a program, though, by the way, by the federal government has a program for these to spend to uncover any other sites like this that was in place prior to this, and that's how this site was found. And I think that it's become much more obviously urgent, but also just that people are more aware that this money's available and that these First Nations groups and advocates need to get that cash and start looking, because I think that's the start of it. We need to. It's embarrassing, though.
It's
this
shameful.
is an international embarrassment, and this happened after our podcast last week, so we didn't get a chance to talk about it. But that was my immediate reaction, was like, ugh, this is just
shame. I thought of it as a parent. I thought about I don't think I had realized the magnitude and gravity of what residential schools really truly were about, and what they really truly mean, and how the damage that they have left in their wake, the generational trauma. I love what Ellis Ross has been saying. I love what Adam Olsen has been saying. We've got some incredible Indigenous leaders who are using their voice and their platform. And I think this is a turning point in Canada that we all need to raise up and amplify those voices whenever possible. So at Jody Vance on Twitter, at George_affleck on Twitter, we'll be sharing all of those links and places to live and learn and become a humble learner. I think that's so key.
Okay.
That's all.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.